Hey, everybody, I'm Joel. That is Jeremy. It is our games of the month for September. And boy, Jeremy, summer's over, or at least will be in the next couple of days with the state baseball championship here coming up on Labor Day weekend. Welcome to football and volleyball. We're back in the fall now.
It's amazing where summer goes. Joel, you're a parent. We were doing a little happy dance. Kids are back in school and everything's back to normal at our house. So, but yeah, it's a great time. And I know that sometimes when we still have these warmer temperatures, it's hard to think about those crisp fall Friday nights, but they're just around the corner. It's a great time of year. And, you know, we're excited. Our family of stations of starting to bring you some of that action of our local high school student athletes.
Well, and I think as we get into our games here this month, I think the biggest game of the month, we got a couple monster football games on the radio for you. The biggest, though, September 15th on KDUZ, Hutchinson taking on Totino Grace. You talk about the last 25 years of Minnesota football, and those are two of the maybe top 5 or 6 football programs in all of Minnesota, and they're facing off against each other this year.
Better get there a little early. Is that what you're saying, Joel?
I think you better, yeah.
Might be a little harder to reserve your seats, but I mean, you basically used all of the superlatives you could use. I mean, you've got two of the best going head to head. It's going to be a lot of fun, and two programs that have their sights set on something pretty big this season too. So we're seeing a few more of these kinds of matchups this year than what we've seen in past years with kind of how they've changed things on the football side of things. So it makes it exciting because we've got other area teams that maybe haven't played certain teams for a number of years. But when you talk about Hutch and Totino Grace, you know, you think about the traditions, you think about championships, you think about winning programs. And that you're right. That's a monster matchup. And it's only a couple weeks away.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the teams that maybe haven't seen each other a little bit. That gets us nicely into our next game because we have on September 29th, we'll stay in football here, on KARP 106.9, Norwood Young America Central taking on Lester Prairie. Two teams, Central had 8 wins last year, section runners-up. Lester Prairie state tournament section champions. And both teams are expecting pretty good things this year, too.
They are. Lester Prairie did lose a few two-way guys that were longtime players for the last 2 or 3 years. And so did Central. Central had that great group of, there were only 8 or 9 seniors last year, but all of those 8 or 9 seniors really, really contributed. Central's big. They're big up front. When we get to winter, Joel, we'll probably be talking about them in basketball too. I mean, just big kids, 6'4", 6'5", and physically gifted. So I think for Lester Prairie, it's going to come down to speed. How can they utilize their speed to try and maybe take advantage of Central's size? And for Central, you're just going to see a lot of smash mouth football. Anytime, Joel, as you know, in high school, when you've got a 220, 230-pound running back who can run like lightning, that's tough to stop. And that's what Central has this year. So it should be a really, really fun matchup come the end of September. And ironically, you get to the end of September, Joel, and then we're starting to gear up and we're starting to look ahead at what's to come because that means section play is only 3 or 4 weeks away.
Let's quickly go to volleyball because on KGLB we'll have on September 21st Glencoe Silver Lake taking on Howard Lake Waverly Winstead. That's a matchup to those two teams last year. I think GSL had like 18-19 wins. The Lakers like 13-14 wins. So they're two programs just on the cusp trying to take that next step here this year.
2 Wright County Conference teams, and that makes it fun. It's a rivalry match, and 2 of the smaller teams or smaller schools in Wright County. So, GSL is really, really excited about the direction right now of where their program is going over the last couple of years. And, here's just another opportunity to escalate that a little bit. And for Howard Lake Waverly Winstead, they're kind of in that situation where they're chasing a little bit and want to be like those programs. So I think you've got that conference matchup that obviously is always appealing and that we know can fill up a gym. And then you've got that opportunity to let's go out and try and beat a team that maybe a lot of people perceive to be a little bit better than us. And again, it seems weird to say it because when you and I are talking, Joel, it's still the end of August, previewing September. But as you and I both know from doing this many years, those section playoffs, those section matchups are going to be just around the corner. So this is another one of those matchups, too, that can be important for later in the season.
Those are the games you should be listening to. As always, you can check out our websites, kduz.com, karpradio.com, and kglb1310.com. We got all the links for you. You can listen live. You can check out our broadcast schedule. And me and Jeremy will be back next week, or next month, I should say, next month, to tell you about all the stuff.